choking on my drink. Damn. Give me a second. Sorry about that. I'd forgotten I hadn't gotten the reaction set up yet. Okay. Someday I'm gonna finish this animation. But I'm not quite that cool, to be honest. And I'm also short. I need to fix that too, I guess. Okay, turn on the redeems again. Okay, scritchy, scritchy, scritchy. Okay, there's those. Oh. But hi. Oh, come on. We're not going to read it. Are we not? Okay. I had me worried there. I thought I wasn't going to react for a second. So, my phone tripod has not been replaced yet. So, things are a little wonky still. Let's share that I'm on. Hey, Guilty. Welcome to being first. Okay, that's posted. I'm drinking a very caffeinated drink tonight, so let's see how that goes. Okay, who's chat is showing up in my thing? Who the hell? That's not right. Why is it still showing some other one? Maybe this work. Oh, I see my chat. Why is the other chat still showing? Because my chat says that Twitch will add 10% to every cheer over 300 bits. I'd like for my chat to be the one showing up in the window. That'll make things a lot easier. Okay, well. Will it show my chat? How much is that chat? Oh, it's showing someone else's booty going. What the hell? Oh, now I am small. Fix that. There we go. Okay, now it's showing me. Now you can hear? Okay. I was trying to figure out why it was showing someone else's chat. Not much, just... Yeah, for some reason I was showing someone else's chat in my window. But it's Friday night, got to go to a dual anniversary dinner. Because it's both my parents' 51st anniversary and my sister and brother-in-law's 21st. So it's interesting sitting there with two couples, one of which can't hear each other and the other pair that don't listen to each other. And I've been trying to get things arranged for Christmas scenes and everything else because I've got to get my tree stuff set up. Well, if they can tolerate each other for that long. Let's see, did I put my decorations in a particular folder or did I just throw them anywhere? I think I put them all in the panels folder. Nope, just my panels folder. Getting my favorite tree up here. Here, right there. Okay. Got my tree. Now put it on the other side. Just sit over there. Gonna balance out the scene. Okay. Let's see, did I do... I think I arranged the lights, didn't I? Yep, there it is. Get those on my window over here. I'm gonna put those. There we go. Okay. Hey, Sammy. Thank you for 8 months. Okay, Fussabot. Or Stream Elements. Stream Elements is the one that's not doing things right again. So it should have done. This one. Oh, what the hell? Stream Elements, why you be such a pain? Well, it just started, so I guess it's doing well so far. I definitely need to fix the Christmas lights. Let's see. This way. Copy. And paste. instead. And move it in here. Let's see, Christmas decorating stream. Okay, that looks better. But yeah, we're gonna do fairy tales tonight, eventually. Oh, I actually got them to sync up. That's cool. But how's your day been, you two? Been a good week? And Sammy, look to see, because I've got subscriber icon thingies. Ouch. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. Should be. As you're at 8 months. Pretty sure I got those set up. I mean, mine is showing up. I hope everyone else is showing up. Yeah. And you were with one of the first subscribers. But I have the subscriber duration ones up, so you should at least be able to do the 6-month one. Because I think it's like 3, 6, 9, 12. Because mine's 12 right now. Since my streaming anniversary is, oh god, in 4 days. No, my Twitch anniversary, well, affiliate anniversary anyway. And I'm oddly enough going to be playing the game Storyteller. I mean, I've already played the game Storytime. I might as well play the game Storyteller. Still kind of curious why my bot is not working. See, she's there. She's just not doing the messages. I mean, Kel does tend to be a little on the lazy side, but still. What is it? Oh, okay, that's my flashlight that's hitting my microphone. Okay, it's just hanging off of it. Oh, a little one thing. High noon. Okay. I'm going to switch over to the library. Aha. Make sure this chat's showing the right window. Looks like it is. Yeah, it is. I haven't tested sound alerts yet. I should do that. Okay, I can hear it. So it is Friday night and we're doing fairy tales. I've got so many more fairy tales in this particular book to get through. And the first one is a silly story. Oh, scritches. Oh, scritches. I need to fix where I am in this. Come on, camera. Okay. But really, the first story is silly, and it admits that it's silly, because it is a silly story. In fact, the name of the story is The Six Sillies. And the first sentence of it is, I'm not sure if it would be disheartening or not. It's a bit odd. So, give me a sip real quick. Our first story for this wonderful Friday Night Fairy Tales is The Six Sillies. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who reached the age of 37 without ever having had a lover. For she was so foolish that no one wanted to marry her. I would. One day, however, a young man arrived to pay his addresses to her, and her mother, beaming with joy, sent her daughter down to the cellar to draw a jug of beer. As the girl never came back, the mother went down to see what had become of her, and found her sitting on the stairs, her head in her hands, while by her side the beer was running all over the floor, as she had forgotten to close the tap.
"What are you doing there?"
asked her mother.
"I was thinking that I shall call my first child after I am married to that young man. All the names in the calendar are taken."
The mother sat down on the staircase because her daughter had said, I'm going to start this one over because it's very silly. I mean, 37 without ever having had a lover because she was foolish? Nowadays, that would kind of be a selling point, wouldn't it? No. Let's try this again. The Six Sillies. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who reached the age of 37 without ever having had a lover, for she was so foolish that no one wanted to marry her. One day, however, a young man arrived to pay his addresses to her, and her mother, beaming with joy, sent her daughter down to the cellar to draw a jug of beer. As the girl never came back, the mother went down to see what had become of her, and found her sitting on the stairs, her head in her hands, while by her side the beer was running all over the floor, as she had forgotten to close the tap.
"What are you doing?"
asked the mother.
"I was thinking what I shall call my first child after I am married to that young man. All the names in the calendar are taken already."
The mother sat down on the staircase beside her daughter and said,
"I will think about it with you, my dear."
The father, who had stayed upstairs with the young man, was surprised when neither his wife nor daughter came back, and in his turn went down to look to them. He found them both sitting on the stairs, while beside them the beer was running all over the ground from the tap, which was still wide open. "What are you doing there? The beer is running all over the cellar."
"We were thinking what we should call the children that our daughter will have when she marries that young man. All the names in the calendar are already taken."
"Well," said the father, "I will think about it with you." As neither the mother nor daughter or father came back upstairs, the lover grew impatient and went down into the cellar to see what they could all be doing. He found all three of them sitting on the stairs, while beside them the beer was running all over the ground from the tap, which was still wide open. Waste of beer. "What in the world are you doing that you don't come upstairs, and that you let the beer run all over the cellar?" "Yes, I know, my boy," said the father. "But if you marry our daughter, what shall you call your children? All the names in the calendar are taken." When the young man heard this, his simple answer was in reply, "Well, goodbye. I am going away. When I have found 3 people sillier than you, I will come back and marry your daughter." So he continued his journey, and after walking a long way, he reached an orchard. Then he saw some people knocking down walnuts and trying to throw them into a cart with a fork. "Oh, what are you doing there?" he asked.
"We want to load the cart with our walnuts, but we can't manage to do it."
The lover advised them to go get a basket and to put the walnuts in it so as to turn them into the cart. "Well," he said to himself, "I've already found someone more foolish than those three." So he went on his way, and by he came to a wood. There he saw a man who wanted to give his pig some acorns to eat, and was trying with all his might to make him climb up the tree. "What are you doing, my good man?" he asked. "I want to make my pig eat some acorns, but I can't get him to go up in the tree." "If you were to climb up and shake down the acorns, the pig could pick them up." "Oh, I never thought of that." "Well, here's the second idiot," the lover said to himself. Somewhere farther along the road, he came upon a man who had never worn any trousers, and who was trying to put on a pair. So he had fastened them to a tree and was jumping up with all his might up into the air so that he might land with his two legs in the trousers as he came down. "It would be much easier if you held them in your hands," said the young man, "and then put your legs one after the other into each hole."
"Dear me, to be sure! You're sharper than I am, for that never occurred to me."
And, having found three people more foolish than his bride, or her father, and her mother, the lover went back to marry the young lady. And, in course of time, they had a great many children. Once she figured out how it worked, I suppose. Well, that's an interesting way to start the evening, isn't it? I'm going to hang my pants from a tree and try to jump up into them, okay? A man has never worn a pair of trousers. People who don't know that it's easier to put walnuts in a basket, and someone who's trying to make their pig climb a tree. As I said, it's a very silly story with silly people. Hey, Squall. So do you jump into a tree to put your pants on? Or trying to make the pig climb a tree? Once. Okay, well. Did it work? Or was it... there was a reason it was only once. Okay. Probably didn't do the pants very much good either. But trying to force a pig to climb a tree, that in itself is a little nuts. I need a soundboard someday. Let's see. Nuts, get it? Okay. Come on, sound alerts. A wild urchin? What's an urchin? Man, my microphone picks up the vibrations of me typing on my keyboard. Let's see. How long is this one? This is a much longer story. Oh no, don't make me sing. This one has songs on it. Dang it. Oh well, I'll have to do the story anyway. So, only slightly less silly. The title of our second story for the night is Kari Woodengown. There once was upon a time a king who had become a widower. His queen had left one daughter behind her, and she was so wise and so pretty that it was impossible for anyone to be wiser or prettier. For a long time the king went sorrowing for his wife, for he had loved her exceedingly. But at last he grew tired of living alone, and married a queen who was a widow. And she also had a daughter, who was just as ill-favored and wicked as the other was good and beautiful. The stepmother and her daughter were envious of the king's daughter because she was so pretty. But so long as the king was at home, they dared to do her no harm, because his love for her was so great. Then there came a time when he made war on another king and went away to fight. And then the new queen thought that she could do what she liked. So she both hungered and beat the king's daughter and chased her about into every corner. At last she thought that everything was too good for her, and set her to work to look after the cattle. So she went about with the cattle and herded them in the woods and in the fields. Of food she got little or none, and grew pale and thin, and was nearly always weeping or sad. Among the herd there was a great blue bull, which always kept itself very smart and sleek, and often came to the king's daughter and let her stroke him. So one day, when she was again sitting crying and sorrowing, the bull came up to her and asked why she was always so full of care. She made no answer, but continued to weep. "Well," said the bull, "I know what it is, though you will not tell me. You are weeping because the queen is unkind to you, and because she wants to starve you to death. But you need be under no concern about food, for in my left ear there lies a cloth, and if you but take it and spread it out, you can have as many dishes as you like." Okay. So she did this, and took the cloth and spread it out upon the grass. And then it was covered with the daintiest dishes that anyone could desire, and there was wine, and mead, and cake. And now she became brisk and well again, and grew so rosy and plump and fair that the queen and her scraggy daughter turned blue and white with vexation at it. The queen could not imagine how her stepdaughter could look so well on such bad food, so she ordered one of her handmaidens to follow her into the wood and watch her and see how it was, for she thought that some of the servants must be giving her food. So the maid followed her into the wood and watched, and saw how the stepdaughter took a cloth from the blue bull's ear and spread it out, and how the cloth was so covered with the most delicate dishes, which the stepdaughter ate and regaled herself with. So the waiting maid went home and told the queen. And now the king came home, and he had conquered the other king with whom he had been at war. There was a great gladness in the palace, but no one was more glad than the king's daughter. The queen, however, pretended to be ill, and gave the doctor much money to say that she would never be well again unless she had some of the flesh of the blue bull to eat. Both the king's daughter and the people in the palace asked the doctor if there was no other means of saving her, and begged for the bull's life, for they were all fond of him, and they all declared that there was no such bull in the whole country. Sounds like a little bull. But it was all in vain. He was to be killed, and should be killed, and nothing else would serve. When the king's daughter heard it, she was so full of sorrow, and went down to the byre to the bull. He, too, was standing there, hanging his head, and looking so downcast she fell a-weeping over him. "What are you weeping for?" said the bull. She told him that the king had come home again, and that the queen had pretended to be ill, and that she had made the doctor say that she could never be well again unless some of the flesh of the blue bull was given to her to eat. And now he was to be killed. Do they have a Red Bull? "When once they have taken my life, they will soon kill you also," said the bull. "If you are of the same mind as me, we will take our departure this very night." The king's daughter thought that it was bad to go and leave her father, but that it was worse still to be in the same house with the queen. So she promised the bull that she would come. At night, when all the others had gone to bed, the king's daughter stole softly down to the byre to the bull, and he took her on his back and got out of the courtyard as quickly as he could. So at cock-crow next morning, when the people came to kill the bull, he was gone. And when the king got up and asked for his daughter, she was gone too. He sent forth messengers to all parts of the kingdom to search for them, and published his loss in all the parish churches. But there was no one who had seen anything of them. In the meantime, the bull travelled through many lands with the king's daughter on his back, and one day they came to a great copper wood, where the trees and the branches and the leaves and the flowers and everything else was of copper. But before they entered the wood, the bull said to the king's daughter, "When we enter into the wood, you must take the greatest care not to touch a leaf of it, or all will be over for both me and you, for a troll with 3 heads is the owner of the wood and lives within." So she said she would be on her guard and not touch anything. And she was very careful, and bent herself out of the way of the branches, and put them aside with her hands. But it was so thickly wooded that it was all but impossible to get forward, and do as she might, she somehow or other tore off a leaf, which got onto her hand.
"Oh no, what have you done now?" said the bull. "It will now cost us a battle for life or death, but do be careful to keep the leaf."
Very soon afterwards they came to the end of the wood, and the troll with 3 heads came rushing up to them.
"Who's been in my wood touching things?" said the troll.
"The wood is as much mine as yours," said the bull.
"We shall have a tussle for that," shrieked the troll.
"That may be," said the bull.
So they rushed on each other and fought, and as for the bull, he butted and kicked with all the strength of his body. But the troll fought quite as well as he did, and the whole day went by before the bull had put an end to him. And he himself was so full of wounds and so worn out that he was scarcely able to move. So they had to wait a day, and the bull told the king's daughter to take the horn of ointment which hung at the troll's belt, and rub him all over with it, and then he himself. The next day they set out once more, and now they journeyed for many, many days. Then after a long, long time, they came to a silver wood. The trees, the boughs, the leaves, and the flowers, and everything there was made of, you guessed, silver. But before the bull went into the wood, he said to the king's daughter, "When we enter into this wood, you must, for heaven's sake, please be careful not to touch anything at all, and do not pluck off even as so much as 1 leaf, or else all will be over for both you and with me. A troll with 6 heads lives here, who is the owner of the wood, and I do not think I should be able to overcome him."
"Yes," said the king's daughter, "I will take good care not to touch what you do not wish me to touch."
But when they got into the wood, it was so crowded, and the trees so close together, that they could scarcely move forward. She was as careful as she could be, and bent aside to get away from the branches, and thrust them away from before her with her hands. But every instant the branch struck against her eyes, and in spite of all her care, she happened to pull 1 leaf off.
"Oh, what have you done now?" said the bull. "It will cost us a battle for life or death, for this troll has 6 heads and is twice as strong as the other. But do be careful to keep the leaf." Just as he said this, came the troll.
"Who is that who is touching my wood?"
"It's as much mine as yours."
"We shall have a tussle for that,"
screamed the troll.
"That may be," said the bull, and rushed at the troll and gored out his eyes, and drove his horns right through him so that his entrails gushed out. But the troll fought as well as he did, and it was 3 whole days before the bull got the life out of him. But the bull was then so weak and worn out that it was only with pain and effort that he could move, and so covered with wounds that the blood streamed from him. So he told the king's daughter to take the horn of ointment that was hanging on the troll's belt and anoint him with it. She did this, and then he came to himself again. And they had to stay there and rest for a week before the bull was able to go any further. Content warning. A little late. At last they set forth on their way again, but the bull was still weak, and at first could not go quickly. The king's daughter wished to spare him, and said that she was young and light of foot, that she should be willing to walk. But he would not give her leave to do that, and she was forced to seat herself on his back again. So they travelled for a long time, and through many lands, and the king's daughter did not at all know where he was taking her. But after a long time they came to a gold wood. It was so golden that the gold dripped off of it, and the trees and the branches and the flowers and the leaves were all of pure gold. Here all happened just as it happened in the copper wood and the silver wood. The bull told the king's daughter that on no account was she to touch it, for there was a troll with 9 heads, who was the owner, and that he was much larger and stronger than the others put together, and that he did not believe that he would overcome him. So she said she would take great care not to touch anything. And he should see that she did. But when they got into the wood, it was thicker than the silver wood. And the farther they got into it, the worse it grew. The wood became thicker and thicker, and closer, and at last she thought there was no way whatsoever by which they could get forward. She was so terrified lest she should break anything off that she sat and twisted and turned from side and that side to get out of the way of the branches and push them away with her hands. But every moment they struck against her eyes, so that she could not see what was clutching at. And before she knew it, she had a golden apple in her hand. She was now in such terror that she began to cry, and wanted to throw it away. But the bull said that she was to keep it, and take the greatest care of it, and comforted her as he could. But he believed that it would be a hard struggle, and he doubted whether it would go well with him. Just then the troll with 9 heads came, and was so frightful that the king's daughter scarcely dared look at him.
"Here is this breaking in my wood!"
he screamed. "It's as much mine as yours," said the bull.
"Then we shall have a tussle for that."
"That may be," said the bull. So they rushed at each other and fought, and it was much more dreadful sight than the king's daughter. She had nearly swooned. The bull gored the troll's eyes out and ran his horns right through him. But the troll fought as well as he did, and when the bull had gored one head to death, the other heads breathed life into it again. So it was a whole week before the bull was able to kill him. But then he himself was so worn out and weak that he could not move at all. His body was all one great wound, and he could not even so much as tell the king's daughter to take the horn of ointment out of the troll's belt and rub it with him. She did this without being told, so he became himself again. But he had to lie there for 3 weeks and rest before he was able to move. Then they journeyed onward by degrees, for the bull said that they had still a little farther to go. And in this way they crossed many high hills and thick woods. This lasted for a while, and then they came upon the fells. "Do you see anything?" asked the bull.
No, I see nothing but the sky above and the wild fell side,"
said the king's daughter. Then they climbed up higher, and the fell grew more level, so that they could see farther around them. "Do you see anything now?" said the bull.
"Yes, I see a small castle, far, far away," said the princess.
"It is not so very little after all," said the bull. After a long time they came to a high hill, where there was a precipice, wall of rock. "Do you see nothing now?" said the bull.
"Yes, now I see the castle quite near, and now it is much, much larger,"
said the king's daughter. "Thither shall you go," said the bull. "Immediate below the castle there is a pigsty where you shall dwell. When you get there, you will find a wooden gown which you are to put on. Then go to the castle and say you are called Kari Woodengown, and that you are seeking a place. But now you must take your little knife and cut my head off with it. Then you must flay me and roll up my hide and put it there under the rock, beneath the hide. You must lay a copper leaf, the silver leaf, and the golden apple. Close beside the rock a stick is standing, and when you want me for anything, you have to only knock the wall of rock with that." At first, she would not do it, but when the bull said that this was the only reward that he should have for what he had done for her, she could do no otherwise. So, though she thought it very cruel, she slaved on, and cut at the great animal with a knife till she had cut its head off, and its hide, then folded up the hide and laid it beneath the mountain wall, and put the copper leaf, the silver leaf, and the golden apple inside of it. When she had done this, she went away to the pigsty, but all the way there she wept, and was very sorrowful. Then she put on the wooden gown and walked to the king's palace. When she got there, she went into the kitchen and begged for a place, saying that her name was Kari Woodengown. The cook told her that she might have a place and leave to stay there at once and wash up, for the girl who had done that before had just run away.
"And as soon as you get tired of being here, you will take yourself off too," said he. "No," she said, I shall certainly not."
And then she washed up, and did it very tidily. On Sunday some strangers were coming to the king's palace, so Kari begged to have leave to carry up the water for the prince's bath. But the others laughed at her and said,
"What do you want there? Do you think the prince will ever look at such a fright as you?"
She would not give it up, however, but went on begging until at last she got leave. When she was going upstairs, her wooden gown made such a clatter that the prince came out and said, "What sort of creature may you be?"
I was here to take the water to you, said Kari.
Do you suppose that I will have any water that you bring? Said the prince, and emptied it over her. She had to bear that, but then she asked permission to go to church. She got that, for the church was very near. But first she went to the rock and knocked at it with a stick which was standing there, as the bull had told her to do. Instantly a man came forth and asked what she wanted. The king's daughter said that she had got leave to go to church and listen to the priest, but that she had no clothes to go in. So he brought her a gown that was bright as the copper wood, and she got a horse and a saddle from him too. When she reached the church, she was so pretty and so splendidly dressed that everyone wondered who she could be, and hardly anyone listened to what the priest was saying, for they were all looking far too much at her. And the prince himself liked her so well that he could not take his eyes off of her for an instant. As she was walking out of the church, the prince followed her and shut the church door after her, and thus he kept one of her gloves in his hand. Then she went away and mounted her horse again, and the prince followed her and asked her whence she came.
"Oh, I'm from Bathland," said
Kari. And when the prince took out the glove and wanted to give it back to her, she said,
"Darkness behind me, but light on my way, that the prince may not see where I'm going today."
Simple spell. The prince had never seen the equal of that glove, and he went far and wide, asking after the country which the proud lady who rode away without her glove said that she had come from. But there was no one who could tell him where it was. Next Sunday, someone had to take a towel to the prince.
May I have leave to go up and do that?"
said Kari. "What would be the use of that?" said the other servant in the kitchen. "You saw what happened last time." Kari would not give up, but went on begging for leave until she got it, and then she ran up the stairs so that her wooden gown clattered again. Out came the prince, and when he saw that it was Kari, he snatched the towel from her and flung it right into her eyes. Because princes. "Be off at once, you ugly troll," he said. "Do you think that I will have the towel that has been touched by your dirty fingers?" After that, the prince went to church. And Kari also asked to leave. They all asked how she would want to go to church when she had nothing to wear but that wooden gown, which was so black and hideous. But Kari said she thought the priest was such a good man at preaching that she got so much benefit from what he said. And at last, she got leave to go. So she went to the rock and knocked, whereupon out came the man and gave her a gown which was much more magnificent than the first. It was embroidered with silver all over it, and it shone like the silver wood. And he gave her the most beautiful horse, with housings embroidered with silver, and a bridle of silver too. When the king's daughter got to church, all the people were standing outside upon the hillside, and all of them wondered who on earth she could be. And the prince was on alert at the moment, and came and wanted to hold her horse while she alighted. But she jumped off and said that there was no need for that, for the horse was so well broken in that it stood still when she bade it, and came when she called it. So they all went into church together, but there was scarcely anyone who listened to that poor priest who was saying, for they were all too busy looking at her, and the prince fell more deeply in love with her than he had before. Princes. When the sermon was over and she went out of the church, and was just about to mount her horse, the prince came again and asked her where she came from.
"I am from Towland,"
said the king's daughter, and as she spoke she dropped her riding whip. And while the prince was stooping to pick it up, she said,
"Darkness behind me and light on my way, that the prince may not see me where I'm going today."
And she was gone again. Neither could the prince see what had become of her. He went far and wide to inquire for that country from whence she had said that she had come. But there was no one who could tell him where it lay, so he was forced to have patience once more. Next Sunday, someone had to go to the prince with a comb. Kari begged for leave to go with it, but the others reminded her of what happened the last time, and scolded her for wanting to let the prince see her when she was so black and so ugly in her wooden gown. But she would not give up asking until they gave her leave to go up to the prince with a comb. When she went clattering up the stairs again, out came the prince and took the comb and flung it at her, and ordered her to be off so fast as she could. After that, the prince went to church, because he's such a good Christian. And Kari also begged for leave to go. Again, they all asked what she could do there. She was so black and ugly and had no clothes that could be seen by other people. The prince or someone might else easily catch sight of her, they said, and then both she and they would suffer for it. But Kari said that they had something else to do than to look at her, and she never ceased begging until she got leave to go. And now all happened just as it had done twice before. She went away to the rock, knocked on it with a stick, and the man came out and gave her a gown, which was very much more magnificent than either of the others. It was almost entirely made of pure gold and diamonds, and she also got a noble horse with housings embroidered in gold, and a golden bridle. That would be heavy. When the king's daughter came to the church, the priest and the people were all standing on the hillside waiting for her, and the prince ran up and wanted to hold the horse, but she jumped off it, saying,
"No, thank you, there will be no need. My horse is so well broken in that it will stand still when I bid it."
So they all hastened into the church together, and the priest got into the pulpit. But no one listened to what he had to say this week either, for they were far too much intrigued at her and wondering whence she came. The prince was far more in love than he had been on either of the former occasions, and he was mindful of nothing but looking at her. When the sermon was over, not that anyone had noticed, the king's daughter was about to leave for church. The prince had caused a firkin of tar to be emptied on the porch in order that he might prevent her from going over it. She, however, did not trouble herself in the least about the tar, and set her foot down in the middle of it, and then jumped over it. Thus one of her gold shoes was left sticking in it. When she had seated herself upon the horse, the prince came running out of the church and asked whence she came.
"From Combland,"
said Kari. But when the prince wanted to reach her gold shoe, she said,
"Darkness behind me and light on my way, that the prince may not see where I'm going today."
The prince did not know what had become of her, so he traveled for a long and wearisome time all over the world asking where Combland was. But when no one could tell him where the country was, he caused it to be made known everywhere that he would marry any woman who could put on the gold shoe. After a long, long while came Kari Woodengown's wicked stepmother and her daughter too, and the shoe fitted her. But she was so ugly and looked so loathsome that the prince was very unwilling to do what he had promised. Imagine that. Nevertheless, all was got ready for the wedding, and she was decked out as a bride. But as they were riding to the church, a little bird sat upon a tree and sang.
A slice off her heel, a slice off her toes, Kari Woodengown shoe fills with blood as she goes.
And when they looked at it, the bird had spoken the truth, for the blood was trickling out of the shoe. So all the waiting maids and all the womenkind in the castle had come to try on the shoe, but there was not one whom it would fit. "But where is Kari Woodengown, then?" asked the prince, when all the others had tried on the shoe, for he understood the song of birds, and it came to his mind what the bird had said. Featherbrain. "Oh, that creature," said the others. "It's not the least use for her to come here. She has feet like a horse." "That may be," said the prince. "But as all the others have tried it, Kari may try it too. Come on down." "Kari!" he crawled out through the door, and Kari came upstairs. And her wooden gown clattered, as if the whole regiment of dragoons were coming up. "Now, you are to try on the gold shoe, and be a princess," said the other servants. And they all laughed at her and mocked her, and Kari took out the shoe and put her foot in it as easily as possible. And then threw off her wooden gown, and there stood with a golden gown which flashed like rays of sunshine. And on her other foot she had the fellow of the gold shoe. The prince knew her in a moment, and was so glad that he ran and took her in his arms and kissed her. And when he heard that she was a king's daughter, he was gladder still. And then they had the wedding. Princes, what the hell? "I will marry the woman who wears this golden shoe, even though she is the ugliest troll that has been bringing me my supplies for the past 3 weeks." Princes are not bright. And that poor bull, honestly. The blue bull really deserved better than to just being some fairy godmother. But, oh well. Animals get so mistreated in these stories. Though, I like the story that, can't remember which one it is. I think it was a Nuzlocke. Yeah. I'd have to look through my archives. I've got one story where a prince was tested that he could tame all the wolves in the forests, and he led them all out into a giant wolf army, and they wiped out all the rulers of the kingdom because they were wicked. That was a good story. We need more stories like that. Like, you proved your point, you can send the wolves away. No, we're not going anywhere. That was a royal buffet day. Anyway, what's this next one? Well, now they're just starting out insulting things on this. How many pages is this one? This one's not too long. Let's see, it goes maybe 8 pages. So, our third and, let's see, maybe final story for the night, because it's already 10:21. I'll see what happens after this one. But the next story for the night is Drakestail. Drakestail was very little, so that is why he was called Drakestail. But tiny as he was, he had brains, and he knew what he was about, for having begun with nothing and ended by amassing 100 crowns. Now the king of the country, who was very extravagant and never kept any money, having heard that Drakestail had some, went one day in his own person to borrow his hoard. And, my word, in those days Drakestail was not a little proud of having lent money to a king. But after the first and second year, seeing that they had never dreamt of paying the interest, he became uneasy, so much so that he at last resolved to go and see his majesty himself and get repaid. So one fine morning, Drakestail, very spruce and fresh, takes to the road singing. I gotta sing again. Quack, 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 when shall I get my money back? He had not gone far when he met his friend Fox, on his rounds that way. Good morning, neighbor, says the friend. Where are you off to so early? I am going to the king for what he owes me. Oh, take me with thee. Drakestail said to himself, one can't have too many friends. I will. He says, but going on all fours, you will soon be tired. Make yourself quite small and get into my throat. Go into my gizzard, and I will carry you. Happy thought, says friend Fox. He takes the bag and baggage, and presto, is gone like a letter into the post. Then Drakestail is off again, all spruce and fresh, still singing, quack, 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 when shall I have my money back? He had not gone far when he met his lady friend, Ladder, leaning on her wall. Good morning, my duckling, says lady friend. Whither's the way so bold? I am going to the king for what he owes me. Oh, take me with thee. Drakestail said to himself, one can't have too many friends. I will, he says. But with your wooden legs you will soon be tired. Make yourself quite small. Get into my throat, into my gizzard, and I will carry you. Happy thought, says my friend Ladder. Nimble bag and package goes to keep company with friend Fox. And quack, 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 Drakestail is off again, singing as spruce as before. A little farther he meets his sweetheart, my friend River, wandering quietly in the sunshine. Thou, my cherub, says she, whither so lonesome with arching tail and muddy road? I am going to the king, you know, for what he owes me. Oh, take me with thee. Drakestail said to himself, we can't have too many friends. I will, says he.
But you who sleep while you walk will soon be tired. Make yourself quite small, get into my throat, into my gizzard, and I will carry you.
Happy thoughts, says friend River. She takes bag and baggage, and glow, 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 she takes her place between friend Fox and my friend Ladder. And quack, 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 Drakestail is off singing again. A little farther he meets on Comrade Wasp Nests, maneuvering his wasps. Good morning, friend Drakestail, says Comrade Wasp's Nest. Where are we bound for so spruce and fresh?
I am going to the king for what he owes me.
Oh, take me with thee, Drakestail said to himself.
One can't have too many friends. I will, says he. But with your battalion to drag along, you will soon be tired. Make yourself quite small, go into my throat, get into my gizzard, and I will carry you.
By Jove, that's a good idea, said Comrade Wasp's Nest. And left file, he takes some of the same road to join the others with all his party. There was not much more room left, but by closing up bits they managed. And Drakestail is off again singing. He arrived thus at the capital, and treading his way up the high street, and singing and running,
Quack, 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 when shall I get my money back?
To the great astonishment of the good folks, till he came to the king's palace. He strikes on the knocker. Tuk, tuk. "Who is there?" asked the porter, putting his head out the wicket.
"'Tis I, Drakestail. I wish to speak to the king."
"Speak to the king? That's easily said. The king is dining and will not be disturbed."
"Tell him that it is I, and I have come where he knows well."
The porter shuts his wicket and goes up to say it to the king, who was just sitting down to dinner with a napkin round his neck, and with all of his ministers. "Good, good," said the king, laughing. "I know what it is. Make him come in, and put him in with the turkeys and chickens." The porter descends.
"Have the goodness to enter." "Good," says Drakestail to himself. "I shall now see that they eat at court."
This way, says the porter. "One step further. There you go."
"How? What? In the poultry yard?"
Fancy how vexed Drakestail was.
"Ah, so that's it," he says. "Wait, I will compel you to receive me. Quack, quack, quack. When shall I get my money back?"
But the turkeys and chickens are creatures who don't like people who are not as themselves. When they saw the newcomer and how he was made, and when they heard him crying too, they began to look black at him.
"What is it? What does he want?"
Finally, they all rush at him together to overwhelm him with pecks.
"I'm lost,"
said Drakestail to himself, when by good luck he remembers his comrade friend Fox, and cries,
"Reynard, Reynard, come out of your earth, for Drakestail's life is of little worth."
Then friend Fox, who was only waiting for these woods, hastens out and throws himself on the wicked fowls, and quick, quack, he tears them to pieces, so much so that at the end of 5 minutes there was not one left alive. And then Drakestail, quite content, began to sing again.
"Quack, quack, quack, when shall I get my money back?"
When the king, who was still at the table, heard this refrain, and the poultry woman came to tell him what had been going on in the yard, he was terribly annoyed. He ordered them to throw his tail of the drake into the well, and make an end of him. And it was done as commanded, and Drakestail was in despair of getting himself out of such a deep hole. Then he remembered his lady friend, the ladder.
Ladder, ladder, come out of thy hold, or Drakestail's days will soon be told.
My friend Ladder, who was only waiting for these words, hastened out and leans her 2 arms on the edge of the well. Then Drakestail climbs nimbly up her back, and hop, he is in the yard, where he begins to sing louder than ever. When the king, who was still at table and laughing at the good trick he played on his creditor, he heard him again reclaiming his money and became livid with rage. He commanded that a furnace should be heated, and this tail of a drake thrown into it, because he must be a sorcerer. The furnace was soon hot, but this time Drakestail was not so afraid. He counted on his sweetheart, my friend River.
River, river, outward flow, or to death Drakestail will go.
My friend River hastens out, and a roof throws herself into the furnace, which she floods, with all the people who had lighted it, after which she was flowing, growling into the hall of the palace to the height of more than 4 feet. And Drakestail, quite content, begins to swim, singing definitely,
Quack, 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 when shall I get my money back?
The king was still at his table, and thought himself quite sure of his game, but when he heard Drakestail singing again, and when they told him all that had passed, he became furious and got up from the table, brandishing his fists. "Bring him here, and I'll cut his throat! Bring him here quick!" cried he. And quickly 2 footmen ran to fetch Drakestail.
At last, said the poor old chap, going up the great stairs, they have decided to receive me.
Imagine his terror on entering. He sees a king as red as a turkey cock, and all his ministers attending him, standing with a sword in hand. He thought that this time all was up with him. Happily, he remembered that there was still 1 friend remaining, and he cried with dying accents, Wasp's nest, make a sally, or Drakestail nevermore may rally. Whereupon the scene changes. Bzz, bzz, bayonet them! The brave waspnet rushes out with all his wasps. They threw themselves on the infuriated king and his ministers, and all stung them so fiercely in the face that they lost their heads. And not knowing where to hide themselves, they all jumped pell-mell from the window and broke their necks on the pavement. Behold, Drakestail, much astonished, all alone in the big saloon and master of the field. He could not get over it. Nevertheless, he remembered shortly what he had come for the palace, and improving on the occasion, he set to work to hunt for his dear money. But in vain he rummaged in all the drawers. He found nothing. All of it had been spent. Thus, ferreting from room to room, he came at last to one with the throne in it, and feeling fatigued, he sat himself down on it to think over his adventure. In the meanwhile, the people had found their king and his ministers with their feet in the air on the pavement, or they had gone into the palace to know how it had happened. On entering the throne room, when the crowd saw that there was already someone on the royal seat, they broke out in cries of surprise and joy. "The king is dead! Long live the king! Heaven has sent us down this thing!" Drakestail, who was no longer surprised at anything, received the acclamation of the people as if he had never done anything else all his life. A few of them even certainly mumbled that a Drakestail would make a fine king. Those who knew him replied that knowing Drakestail was more worth a king than a spendthrift like him who was lying in the pavement. In short, they all ran over and took the crown off the head of the deceased and placed it on the Drakestail, whom fitted it like wax. Thus, he became king. And now, after the ceremony, ladies and gentlemen,
let's go to supper. I am so hungry.
What the heck?
So apparently Drakestail was a duck. I mean, I could kind of picture it if it was a dragon, that kind of drake, but no, it was a duck drake. That's just... Yes, the quacking dragon would have been very amusing. I mean, he was friends with a fox. He was friends with a ladder. A river was his lover, which is really interesting to think about. And his last friend was a wasp's nest. Not the wasps, the nest. How the hell do you make friends with a wasp's nest? Clearly by being a drake. Oh. Yeah, that story was a lot shorter than I thought it might be. Luckily, not nearly as much singing as I had dreaded. Oh, this next one looks very... Oh, God, it's in French. Well... Qui verra le voilà le président des rats. Okay, well. How much French is in this one? No parle français. No parle français bien. Okay. I was just commenting about the fact that I have to speak different languages to do Sherlock Holmes because he keeps changing languages on that one. But, I recognize the story. The title is different, but it's... It's interesting way to do it. It's... You'll figure out what the regular title is when I start into it, but the title in this particular book has him listed as The Rat Catcher. A very long time ago in the town of Hamel, in Germany, was invaded by a band of rats, like which had never been seen before, or will ever be seen again. They were great black creatures that ran boldly in broad daylight through the streets, and swarmed so all over the houses, the people at last could not put their hand or foot down anywhere without touching one.
While dressing in the morning, they found them in their breeches and petticoats, in their pockets and in their boots, and when they wanted a morsel to eat, the voracious horde had swept away everything from cellar to garret. The night was even worse. As soon as the lights were out, these untiring nibblers set to work. And everywhere, in the ceilings and the floors, in the cupboards and the doors, there was a chase and a rummage, and so furious was the noise of gimlets, pincers, and saws that a deaf man could have rested for 1 hour altogether. Neither cats, nor dogs, nor poisons, nor traps, nor prayers, nor candles burnt to all the saints. Nothing would do anything. The more they killed, the more they came, and the inhabitants of Hamel began to go to the dogs. Not that they were of much use either. When one Friday there arrived in town a man with a queer face who played the bagpipes and sang this refrain. Que vivra vera la voila le prenoir des rats. He was a great gawky fellow, dry and bronzed with a crooked nose, a long rat-tail mustache, and 2 yellow, piercing eyes, under a large felt hat set off by a scarlet cock's feather. He was dressed in a green jacket with a leather belt and red breeches, and on his feet were sandals fastened by thongs passed around his legs in the gypsy fashion. That is how he may be seen to this day, painted on a window of the Cathedral of Hamel. He stopped on the great marketplace before the town hall, and turned his back on the church, and went on with his music, singing, Who lives shall see, this is he, the rat-catcher. The town council had just assembled to consider once more the plague of Egypt, from which no one could save the town. The stranger sent word to the councillors that, if they would make it worth his while, he would rid them of all their rats before night, down to the very last. Then he's a sorcerer, cried the citizens in one voice. We must beware of him. The town councillor, who was considered clever, reassured them. He said, Sorcerer or no, if this bagpiper speaks the truth, it is he who sent us this horrible vermin that he wants to rid us of money today. Well, we must learn to catch the devil in his own snares. You leave it to me. Leave it to the town chancellor, said the citizens in one voice. And the stranger was brought before them. Before night, said he, I shall have dispatched all the rats in Hamel, if you will but pay me a gross a head. A gross a head? Cried the citizens. But that will come to millions of florins. The town councillor simply shrugged his shoulders and said to the stranger, A bargain, to work. The rats will be paid at 1 gross a head, as you ask. The bagpiper announced that he would operate that very evening when the moon rose. He added that the inhabitants should at that hour leave the streets free, and content themselves with looking out their windows at what was passing, and that it would be a pleasant spectacle. When the people of the Hamel heard of the bargain, they too exclaimed, A gross a head? But this will cost us a deal of money. Leave it to the town councillor, said the town council with a malicious air. And the good people of Hamel repeated with their councillors, Leave it to the town councillor. Towards 9 at night, the bagpiper appeared on the marketplace. He turned, as at first, his back to the church. And the moment the moose ran on the horizon, "Trarira Trevi!" the bagpipe sounded. It was first a slow, caressing sound, then more and more lively and urgent, and so sonorous and piercing that it penetrated as far as the farthest alleys and retreats of the town. Soon, from the bottom of the cellars to the top of the garrets, from all under the furniture, from all the nooks and corners of houses, out came the rats, searched for the door, fling themselves into the street, and trip, trip, trip began to run and file towards the front of Town Hall, so squeezed together that they covered the pavement like a wave of flooded torrent. When the square was quite full, the piper faced about, and, still playing briskly, turned towards the river that runs at the foot of the walls of Hamel. Arrived there, he turned around. The rats were following. "Hop, hop!" he cried, pointing with his finger to the middle of the stream, where the water whirled and was drawn down as if through a funnel. And hop, hop, without hesitation, the rats took the leap, and swam straight into the tunnel, plunging in head foremost, and disappeared. The plunging continued thus without ceasing until midnight. At last, dragging himself with difficulty, came a big rat, white with age, and stopped on the bank. It was the king of the band. "Are they all there, friend Blanchette?" asked the piper.
"They're all there,"
replied friend Blanchette. "And how many were there?"
990,999.
"Well reckoned?"
"Well reckoned."
"Then go and join them, O sire, and au revoir." Then the old white rat sprang in his turn into the river, and swam into the whirlpool, and disappeared. When the piper had thus concluded his business, he went to bed at his inn. For the first time during 3 months, the people of Hamel slept quietly through the night. The next morning at 9 o'clock, the bagpiper repaired to the town hall, where the town council awaited him. "All your rats took a jump into the river yesterday," he said to the councillors, "and I guarantee that not one of them comes back. There were 999,999 at one gross a head. Reckon." "Let us reckon the heads first. 1 gross a head is 1 head of the gross. Where are the heads?" The rat-catcher did not expect this treacherous stroke. He paled with anger, and his eyes flashed fire. "The heads!" he cried. "If you care about them, you can go and find them in the river." "So," replied the town councillor, "you refuse to hold to the terms of your agreement. We ourselves could refuse you all payment, but you have been of use to us, and we will not let you go without recompense." And he offered him 50 crowns.
"Keep your recompense for yourself," replied the rat-catcher proudly. "If you do not pay me, I will be paid by your heirs."
Thereupon he pulled his hat down over his eyes and went hastily out of the hall, and left the town without speaking to a soul. When the Hamel people heard how the affair had ended, they rubbed their hands, and with no more scruple than their own town councillor, they laughed over the rat-catcher, who, they said, was caught in his own trap. But what made them laugh above all was his threat of getting himself paid by their heirs. How they wished they could only have such creditors for the rest of their lives. Next day, which was Sunday, they all went gaily to the church, thinking that after Mass they would at least be able to eat something good that all the rats had not tasted before them. They never suspected the terrible surprise that awaited them on their return home. No children anywhere. They had all disappeared. "Our children! Where are our poor children?" was the cry that was soon heard in all the streets. Then through the east door of the town came 3 little boys who cried and wept. And this is what they told.
While the parents were at church, a wonderful music had resounded. Soon all the boys and all the little girls that had been left at home had gone out, attracted by the music sounds, and had rushed to the great marketplace. There they found the rat-catcher playing his bagpipes at the same spot as the evening before. Then the stranger had begun to walk quickly, and they followed, singing and running and dancing about to the music, as far as the foot of the mountain which one sees entering Hamel. At their approach the mountain had opened a little, and the bagpiper had gone in with them, after which it had closed again. Only us 3 little ones who were told the adventure remained outside as if by a miracle. One was bandy-legged and could not run fast enough, and the other, who had left the house in haste, 1 foot shod and the other bare, had hurt himself against a big stone and could not walk without difficulty. The third had arrived in time, but when hurrying to go in with the others, had struck so violently against the wall of the mountain that he fell backwards at the moment it closed upon his comrades.
At this story, the parents redoubled their lamentations. They ran with pikes and mattocks to the mountain and searched till evening to find the opening by which their children had disappeared, without being able to find it. At last, the night following, they returned desolate to Hamel. But the most unhappy of all was the town councillor, for he lost 3 little boys and 2 pretty little girls. And to crown all, the people of Hamel overwhelmed him with reproaches, forgetting that the evening before they had all agreed with him. And what had become of all these unfortunate children? The parents had hoped they were not all dead, and that the rat-catcher, who certainly must have come out of the mountain, would have taken them with him to his country. That is why for several years they sent in search of them to different countries. But no one came on a trace of the poor little ones. It was not till much later that anything was heard of them. About 150 years after the events, when there was no longer one left of the fathers, mothers, brothers, or sisters of that day, there arrived one evening in Hamel some merchants of Bremen, returning from the east, who asked to speak to the citizens. They told that they, in crossing Hungary, had sojourned in a mountainous country called Transylvania, where the inhabitants only spoke German. While all of them, nothing was spoken but Hungarian. These people also declared that they came from Germany, but they did not know how they chanced to be in this strange country. Now, said the merchants of Bremen, these Germans could not be any other than the descendants of the lost children of Hamel. The people in Hamel did not doubt it, and since that day they regard it as certain that the Transylvanians of Hungary are their countryfolk, whose ancestors as children were brought there by the rat-catcher. There are more difficult things to believe than that. Well, that's interesting. So the Pied Piper was of Hamel.
Not Hamlin. He also spoke French and played the bagpipes. So. There's that. But it is coming up on 11 o'clock, and I don't think I'd be able to make it to the next story, because the next story in the book is the true story of Little Golden Hood. But that sounds like a good one to start next week, so. Oh, Spirit Tomb. And I can still hear the spring bouncing on that microphone stand. Oh well. Let's see who is still on that we can raid. Ouch. As I know dusk started a little while ago. I think Oni is still on. Let me check. Yeah, Oni is playing Lethal Company. Dusk is playing Overwatch 2. Ping is playing Tales of Symphonia. I don't have any raid suggestions. Lunare Donna? I'll look at them real quick. Ouch. Keep adjusting my seat. Okay. And I need a new tripod for my phone. Sometimes funny. Let's see. I don't hear anything. Wait. Wow, okay. Commentary is interesting. The first thing I hear is furries ruined everything. It's like, what?
and talking about, yeah, I'm gonna draw something in a big hairy dog cock. It's like, what? That's just okay. Well, I don't know. I just come into really weird conversations for chat sometimes. um, that's just. Okay, maybe not them. Any other ideas? Not sure how they feel about a wolf raiding them. Let's see. Check this one. Oh, I usually get bundled in with the furries, so. I mean, I guess technically I am, but, I never picture myself that way. I'm a werewolf. I just happen to be a wolf. Let's see, what's MA.exe? Okay. What am I gonna hear in this chat? Oh, they're playing Guild Wars 2. And I haven't played Guild Wars in, almost a decade now. Probably a little bit more. I can't even log into my original account because I don't have the password for it. Though she's also in the middle of a battle, I don't want to really interrupt that one with a raid. It looks like... Which boss is that? I don't know that boss. As I said, I haven't played for a while. Any other ideas? Let's see what they're doing. Man, my computer's being slow. Load!
Are they ending? Who are they Who are they saying goodbye to? I went to ads as soon as I went in there. Okay, they're all saying thanks for the stream, so I guess she's ending soon. Yeah, she's ending. Okay. Hmm. A lot of people are playing Lethal Company right now. I've got it, I just haven't played much of it. Ping. She's pretty cool. Okay, gonna post my raid messages. Okay. And red ping. Let's see, she's playing Tales of Symphonia, so as I said, she's pretty cool. So, hope everyone has a good evening wherever you might be. Afternoon, evening, whichever it could be, because, you know, time zones, such a pain in the ass. But anyway, have a good one, and have a good weekend. And hopefully you see next week for Fairy Tales, unless I'm doing something for Christmas, but I'm not quite there yet. Thanks for coming in, Squall. Thank Sammy and Guilty if you're still here somewhere. Let's go talk to the Daughter of Death. Later, everyone.